Imagine a civilization that began as a small city-state on the Italian peninsula and grew to dominate 3 continents. This is the extraordinary story of the Roman Empire, one of the greatest war machines the world has ever known. For over 1,000 years, the Roman eagles flew over territories stretching from Scotland to Africa, from Portugal to Iraq, ruling approximately 65 million square kilometers and more than 50 million people. What made Rome so special? How did a single city manage to conquer and maintain control over such vast territories? The answer lies in its unique combination of military organization, advanced engineering, efficient administration, and an impressive ability to absorb and adapt conquered cultures. Rome was not just an empire, it was a perfectly tuned machine for conquest and governance. The story of Rome began around 753 BC according to tradition, when Romulus founded the city on the hills along the Tiber River. Initially, Rome was just one of many city-states competing for power on the Italian peninsula. Yet from the beginning, the Romans demonstrated qualities that distinguished them from their neighbors: military discipline, political pragmatism, and an insatiable thirst for expansion. During the Republic period, 509–27 BC, Rome developed institutions that would form the foundation of its future empire. The Senate, the consuls, and the system of magistrates created a governmental structure that, though not democratic in the modern sense, allowed for more efficient administration than the traditional monarchies of the time. But it was in war that Rome truly excelled. Unlike other ancient civilizations that relied on citizen soldiers or mercenaries, Rome created a professional army based on legions. Each legion consisted of about 5,000 highly trained men, disciplined and uniformly equipped. The Roman legion was much more than a simple army. It was a perfectly organized war machine, capable of building fortifications, roads, and surrounding cities with equal efficiency. Each legionary was trained not only as a soldier, but also as an engineer, builder, and administrator. The legion's organization was hierarchical and precise. At the base were the common legionaries, heavy infantry soldiers armed with the gladius, short sword, scutum, rectangular shield, and pilum, throwing spear. Above them were the centurions, experienced officers each responsible for about 80 men. At the top of the hierarchy was the legatus, usually a member of the Roman aristocracy with both military and political experience. What made the legion truly formidable was its tactical flexibility. Unlike the rigid and inflexible Greek phalanxes, the legions could adapt to different terrains and battle situations. The manipular formation allowed small groups of soldiers to maneuver independently, creating a force capable of attacking, defending, or retreating as needed. Rome not only relied on its soldiers' discipline but also on technological superiority. The Romans perfected siege engines, such as catapults and ballistae, capable of destroying enemy fortifications from a distance. They also developed mobile towers, battering rams, and other devices that made them masters of city sieges. Another key innovation was the construction of military roads. With more than 400,000 kilometers of roads built throughout the empire, Rome ensured that its legions could be deployed quickly to any threatened region. The famous expression, "all roads lead to Rome," was not just a metaphor. It was a logistical reality that guaranteed political and military control. The Romans were also masters of naval engineering. The Roman fleet, particularly during the Punic Wars against Carthage, became a decisive weapon. They developed the corvus, a boarding bridge that transformed naval battles into infantry combat, where Roman discipline and training gave them the upper hand. Rome's rise to global dominance truly began with its clashes against Carthage, a powerful city-state in North Africa. The Punic Wars, 264–146 BC, were some of the greatest conflicts of antiquity, deciding who would control the Mediterranean. In the First Punic War, Rome defeated Carthage at sea, despite initially lacking naval experience. By rapidly building a fleet and adapting their tactics, the Romans proved their incredible capacity to learn and innovate in the midst of war. The Second Punic War brought one of history's most brilliant generals, Hannibal Barca. He shocked the world by crossing the Alps with elephants and defeating Rome in several battles, such as Cannae, where nearly 50,000 Roman soldiers fell in a single day. Yet Rome's resilience prevailed. Instead of surrendering, they reorganized their forces, opened new fronts, and under the command of Scipio Africanus, carried the war into Carthage itself. In 202 BC, at the Battle of Zama, Hannibal was finally defeated. The Third Punic War sealed Carthage's fate. After a brutal siege, the city was completely destroyed in 146 BC, and its territory became a Roman province. From that moment on, Rome was no longer just a regional power. It had become the undisputed master of the Mediterranean, known as Mare Nostrum, our sea. As Rome expanded, the Republic faced increasing internal tensions. Social inequality, corruption, and disputes among powerful generals threatened stability. It was in this turbulent context that Julius Caesar emerged, one of the most brilliant military and political minds in history. Caesar expanded Rome's territory through the conquest of Gaul, modern-day France and Belgium. His campaigns demonstrated not only military genius but also political vision. He won the loyalty of his troops by sharing in their hardships and rewarding their service. However, his growing power alarmed the Roman Senate. Ordered to disband his army, Caesar instead crossed the Rubicon River in 49 BC, an act of open defiance that sparked a civil war. His famous words, "Alea iacta est," the die is cast, symbolized the point of no return. After defeating his rivals, Caesar became dictator for life. He implemented reforms, centralized power, and began reshaping the Republic into an empire. Yet his ambition made him enemies. On the Ides of March 44 BC, Caesar was assassinated by senators who feared he would destroy Rome's republican traditions. Ironically, his death did not restore the Republic. Instead, it accelerated its end. Civil wars followed until his adopted heir, Octavian, later known as Augustus, emerged victorious. With Augustus, Rome officially transformed from republic to empire, beginning its golden age. With Augustus on the throne, Rome entered an era known as the Pax Romana, Roman peace. For more than 2 centuries, the empire enjoyed relative stability, economic prosperity, and territorial expansion. The borders stretched from the deserts of Arabia to the forests of Germania, from the sands of Africa to the misty isles of Britannia. Never before had so many people lived under a single political order. Roman cities flourished, adorned with temples, theaters, aqueducts, and amphitheaters. The Colosseum in Rome, inaugurated in 80 AD, symbolized the grandeur of imperial power. Capable of holding up to 50,000 spectators, it hosted gladiatorial games, naval battles, and shows that projected the strength and authority of the empire. Infrastructure was one of the great legacies of this period. Roads, bridges, and aqueducts connected the provinces, allowing goods, soldiers, and information to flow efficiently. Roman law, codified and applied throughout the empire, created a sense of unity and justice that transcended local customs. The economy thrived thanks to trade routes that connected the empire to distant lands like India and China. Spices, silk, and luxury goods arrived in Rome, while wine, olive oil, and Roman weapons traveled outward. But the Pax Romana was not just about peace. It was sustained by the constant presence of the Roman legions, stationed along the frontiers, ready to repel invasions and suppress revolts. Peace, for Rome, was maintained at the edge of a sword. Religion was at the heart of Roman society. The Romans believed that the favor of the gods was essential for the success of the state. Every victory, every harvest, every political decision depended on rituals performed with precision. Temples dedicated to Jupiter, Mars, Venus, and countless other deities dominated the skylines of Roman cities. The Pantheon, rebuilt by Emperor Hadrian in the 2nd century AD, was a masterpiece of architecture and a symbol of the empire's religious devotion, a temple dedicated to all gods. Roman religion was inclusive. As the empire expanded, it absorbed gods and rituals from conquered peoples. The Egyptian goddess Isis, the Persian cult of Mithras, and Celtic deities all found their place within the Roman pantheon. This syncretism not only enriched Roman spirituality, but also helped integrate diverse populations into the empire. But religion was not only about rituals. it was also a tool of power. Emperors were often deified after death, and some, like Caligula and Domitian, even demanded divine honors while still alive. The imperial cult created a direct link between loyalty to the emperor and loyalty to the gods. At the same time, Roman culture flourished. Latin became the language of administration and law, while Greek dominated philosophy and science. Literature, theater, and public spectacles became forms of entertainment and political propaganda. Poets like Virgil, Horace, and Ovid celebrated Rome's greatness, while historians such as Livy and Tacitus recorded its triumphs and tragedies for posterity. This fusion of politics, religion, and culture made Rome not just a military empire, but also a cultural one, spreading its language, customs, and institutions across 3 continents. No empire, no matter how mighty, is eternal. From the 3rd century AD onward, Rome faced mounting internal and external pressures that would ultimately break the machine it had so carefully built. The so-called crisis of the 3rd century, 235–284 AD, nearly destroyed the empire. In just 50 years, Rome saw more than 20 emperors rise and fall, most assassinated or overthrown. Civil wars drained resources, weakened the frontiers, and shattered political stability. Economically, the empire suffered from hyperinflation. To finance constant wars, emperors debased the currency, reducing its silver content and causing rampant price increases. Trade networks faltered, cities shrank, and the once powerful Roman economy began to crumble. While Rome was weakened from within, new threats rose at its borders. Germanic tribes such as the Goths, Vandals, and Franks repeatedly invaded Roman territories. In the east, the powerful Sassanid Persian Empire challenged Roman authority. The sack of Rome by Alaric and his Visigoths in 410 AD sent shockwaves across the Mediterranean world. The Eternal City, which had once ruled the known world, was now vulnerable. Later, in 455 AD, the Vandals plundered Rome again, symbolizing the empire's irreversible decline. In an attempt to save Rome, Emperor Diocletian reorganized the state in 284 AD, dividing it into the Western and Eastern Roman empires. While the Eastern Empire, later known as Byzantium, survived for another 1,000 years, the Western Empire collapsed under the weight of invasions, corruption, and economic ruin. In 476 AD, the Western Roman Empire officially fell when the Germanic leader Odoacer deposed the last emperor, Romulus Augustulus. It was the symbolic end of ancient Rome, but not of its legacy. Although the Western Roman Empire collapsed in 476 AD, its influence never truly disappeared. Rome left behind a legacy that continues to shape our modern world in law, language, architecture, politics, and culture. Roman law became the backbone of Western civilization's legal systems. Concepts such as innocent until proven guilty, contracts, property rights, and the rule of law all trace their roots back to Rome. The compilation of Roman law under Emperor Justinian in the 6th century, the Corpus Juris Civilis, formed the basis for civil law in much of Europe and beyond. Latin, the language of the Romans, evolved into the Romance languages spoken by over 800 million people today: Portuguese, Spanish, French, Italian, and Romanian. Even in English, thousands of words have Latin origins. Latin also remained the language of science, medicine, and the Catholic Church for centuries. Roman engineering and architecture continue to inspire. From aqueducts and amphitheaters to domes and arches, Roman innovations shaped cities across the empire and still influence modern construction. Government buildings worldwide, from Washington's Capitol to Paris's Opera, echo Roman styles. Rome's political institutions, such as the Senate, the Republic, and the idea of citizenship, deeply influenced modern democracy. The founding fathers of the United States studied Roman history to design their constitution, seeing Rome as both a warning and a model. Rome was not just a conqueror of lands, it was a builder of civilization. It unified Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East under one system, creating a foundation that allowed Western culture to flourish. Even after its fall, Rome lived on through the Byzantine Empire, the Catholic Church, and later kingdoms that claimed to be its heirs. Today, nearly 2,000 years after its height, the spirit of Rome still endures. In every courtroom applying justice, in every word derived from Latin, in every building inspired by classical design, and in every ideal of citizenship and universal rights, Rome is still with us. Rome's true triumph was not only its military conquest, but its ability to create a civilization so enduring that its echoes still resonate through history. In a very real sense, we are all children of Rome.